Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been so monstrously long since I've uploaded a video, and just me talking has been something that I haven't been able to do, mainly because of school. Yes, I'm still in school. It's kicking my ass right now, but right now I'm trying to kick it back. Right now we're in the Halloween season and I'm running out of time to make a scary video. I really wanted to do this big exposition on the top 20 creepypastas of all time. I actually wanted to do a ranking of it. But right now I don't have the time to do the editing, trying to find out the information of all the creepypastas and trying to get my overall feelings of it completed. So I decided to do the next best thing, and that is just reading the creepypasta itself. So they all vary in time. You know, some creepypastas take like 20 minutes to read, some of them are just like 3-4 minutes. So here I have some of the creepypastas I was going to talk about. I'm not going to discuss all 20 of them because this video will probably be like 6 hours. So I hope I'm able to like inform you guys and give you guys the best entertainment, or at least tell you the story of these creepypastas in general. And I don't want to like give you guys my opinion right away, but I think I will give it a score out of 10, or just even tell you guys how much I feel about the creepypasta. So again, I'm not probably gonna do a big analysis video on each creepypasta, because remember, each creepypasta is probably like 10 to 20 minutes of just pure reading, and I don't have that in me to do another like analysis video on why Slenderman is the embodiment of evil, or why the Russian sleep experiment shows the depravity of humanity and all that stuff. I'm just here to read dumb creepypasta stories and entertain you guys, and I can hopefully do that before October the 31st. So let's first go on and talk about this first creepypasta. It is called Psychosis. Now I am reading this in the creepypasta website right now, and apparently it is the highest rated creepypasta story out there. It has a 9.1 out of 10. It is rated very highly. You know, it's in the same levels as like Candle Cove and, you know, those creepypastas like that. So let's start reading this story. So let us begin. It starts off within Sunday. Apparently this is like some guy's like memoir or something like this. I'm not sure why I'm writing this down on paper and not on my computer. I guess I've just noticed some odd things. It's not that I don't trust the computer, I just need to organize my thoughts. I need to get down all the details somewhere I know that what I write can't be deleted or changed. Not that that's happened, it's just everything blurs together here, and the fog of memory lends a strange cast to things. I'm starting to feel cramped in this small apartment. Maybe that's the problem. I just had to go and choose the cheapest apartment, the only one in the basement. The lack of windows down here makes day and night seem to slip by seamlessly. I haven't been out in a few days because I've been working on this programming project so intensively. I suppose I just wanted to get it done. Hours of sitting and staring at a monitor can make anyone feel strange. I know, but I don't think that's it. I'm not sure when I first started to feel like something was odd. I can't even define what it is. Maybe I just haven't talked to anyone in a while. That's the first thing that crept up on me. Everyone I've normally talked to online while I program has been idle, or they've simply not logged on at all. My instant messages go unanswered. The last email I got from anybody was a friend saying he'd talk to me when he got back from the store, and that was yesterday. I'd call with my cell phone, but reception's terrible down here. Yeah, that's it. I just need to call someone. I'm gonna go outside. Well, that didn't work so well. As the tingle of fear fades, I'm feeling a little ridiculous for being scared at all. I looked in the mirror before I went out, but I didn't shave the 2-day stubble I've grown. I figured I was just going out for a quick cell phone call. I did change my shirt though, because it was lunchtime, and I guess that I'd run into at least one person I knew. That didn't end up happening. I wish it did. When I went out, I opened the door to my small apartment slowly. A small feeling of apprehension had somehow already lodged itself in me. For some indefinable reason, I chalked it up to having not spoken to anyone but myself for a day or two. I peered down the dingy gray hallway, made dingier by the fact that it was a basement hallway. On one end, a large metal door led to the building's furnace room. It was locked, of course. 2 dreary soda machines stood by it. I bought a soda from one the first day I moved in, but it had a 2-year-old expiration date. I'm fairly sure nobody knows those machines are even down here, or my cheap landlady just doesn't care to get them restocked. I closed my door softly and walked the other direction, taking care not to make a sound. I have no idea why I chose to do that, but it was fun giving it to the strange impulse not to break the droning hum of the soda machines. At least for the moment. I got to the stairwell and took the stairs up to the building's front door. I looked through the heavy door's small square window and received quite a shock. It was definitely not lunchtime. City gloom hung over the dark street outside, and the traffic lights at the intersection in the distance blinked yellow. Dim clouds, purple and black from the glow of the city, hung overhead. Nothing moved save the few sidewalk trees that shifted in the wind. I remember shivering through, though I wasn't cold. Maybe it was the wind outside. I could vaguely hear it through the heavy metal door, and I knew it was the unique kind of late night wind. The kind that was constant, cold, and quiet, save for the rhythmic music it made as it passed through countless unseen tree leaves. I decided not to go outside. Instead, I lifted my cell phone to the door's little window and checked the signal meter. The bars filled up the meter and I smiled. Time to hear someone else's voice. I remember thinking relieved. It was such a strange thing to be afraid of nothing. I shook my head, laughing at myself silently. I hit speed dial for my best friend Amy's number and held the phone up to my ear. It rang once, but then it stopped. Nothing happened. I listened to silence for a good 20 seconds, then hung up. I frowned, and then looked at the signal meter again. Still full. I went to dial her number again, but then my phone rang in my hand, startling me. I put it up to my ear. "Hello?" I asked, immediately fighting down a small shock at hearing the first spoken voice in days, even if it was my own. I had gotten used to the droning hum of the building's inner workings, my computer, and the soda machines in the hallway. There was no response to my greeting at first, but then finally a voice came. "Hey," said a clear male voice, obviously of college age, like me. "Who's this?" "John," I replied, confused. "Oh, sorry, wrong number," he replied, then hung up. I lowered the phone slowly and leaned against the thick brick wall of the stairwell. That was strange. I looked at my received call list, but the number was unfamiliar. Before I could think on it further, the phone rang loudly, shocking me yet again. This time I looked at the caller before I answered. It was another unfamiliar number this time. I held the phone up to my ear, but said nothing. I heard nothing but the general background noise of a phone. Then, a familiar voice broke my tension. "John?" was the single word in Amy's voice. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, it's you," I replied. "Who else would it be?" she responded. "Oh, the number. I'm at a party on 7th Street and my phone died just as you called me. This is someone else's phone, obviously." "Oh, okay," I said. "Where are you?" she asked. My eyes glanced over the drab whitewashed cylinder block walls and the heavy metal door with its small window. "At my building," I sighed. "Just feeling cooped up. I didn't realize it was so late." "You should come here," she said, laughing. "Nah, I don't feel like looking for some strange place by myself in the middle of the night," I said, looking out the window at the silent, windy street that secretly scared me just a tiny bit. "I think I'm just going to keep working or go to bed." "Nonsense," she replied. "I can come get you. Your building is close to 7th Street, right?" "How drunk are you?" I asked lightheartedly. "You know where I live." "Oh, of course," she said abruptly. "I guess I can't get there by walking, huh?" "You could if you wanted to waste half an hour," I told her. "Right," she said. "Okay, have to go. Good luck with your work." I lowered the phone once more, looking at the numbers flash as the call ended. Then the droning silence suddenly reasserted itself in my ears. The two strange calls and the eerie street outside just drove home my aloneness in this empty stairwell. Perhaps from having seen too many scary movies, I had the sudden, inexplicable idea that something could look in the door's window and see me. Some sort of horrible entity that hovered at the edge of aloneness, just waiting to creep up on unsuspecting people that strayed too far from other human beings. I knew the fear was irrational, but nobody else was around, so I jumped down the stairs, ran down the hallway into my room, and closed the door as swiftly as I could while still staying silent. Like I said, I feel a little ridiculous for being scared of nothing, and the fear has already faded. Writing this down helps a lot. It makes me realize that nothing is wrong. It filters out half-formed thoughts and fears and leaves only cold, hard facts. It's late. I got a call from a wrong number and Amy's phone died, so she called me back from another number. Nothing strange is happening. Still, there was something a little off about that conversation. I know it could have been just the alcohol she had had, or was it even her that seemed off to me? Or was it, yes, that was it. I didn't realize it until this moment, writing these things down. I knew writing things down would help. She said she was at a party, but I only heard silence in the background. Of course, that doesn't mean anything in particular, as she could have just gone outside to make the call. No, that couldn't be it either. I didn't hear the wind. I just needed to see if the wind is still blowing. Monday. I forgot to finish writing last night. I'm not sure what I expected to see when I ran up the stairwell and looked out the heavy metal doors window. I'm feeling ridiculous. Last night's fear seems hazy and unreasonable to me now. I can't wait to go out into the sunlight. I'm going to check my email, shave, shower, finally get out of here. Wait, I think I heard something. It was a thunder. That whole sunlight and fresh air thing didn't happen. I went out into the stairwell and upstairs, only to find disappointment. The heavy metal door's little window showed only flowing water as torrential rain slammed against it. Only a very dim, gloomy light filtered in through the rain. But at least I knew it was daytime, even if it was gray, sickly, wet day. I tried looking out the window and waiting for lightning to illuminate the gloom, but the rain was too heavy and I couldn't make out anything more than vague, weird shapes moving at odd angles in waves washing down the window. Disappointed, I turned around, but I didn't want to go back to my room. Instead, I wandered further up the stairs past the first floor and the second. The stairs ended at the third floor, the highest floor in the building. I looked through the glass that ran up the outer wall of the stairwell, but it was the warped, thick kind that scatters the light. Not that there was much to see through the rain to begin with. I opened the stairwell door and wandered down the hallway. The 10 or so thick wooden doors, painted blue a long time ago, were all closed. I listened as I walked, but it was the middle of the day, so I wasn't surprised that I heard nothing but the rain outside. As I stood there in the dim hallway, listening to the rain, I had the strange, fleeting impression that the doors were standing like silent granite monoliths erected by some ancient forgotten civilization for some unfathomable guardian purpose. Lightning flashed, and I could have sworn that for just a moment, the old grainy blue wood looked just like the rough stone. I laughed at myself for letting my imagination get the best of me, but then it occurred to me that the dim gloom and lightning must mean that there was a window somewhere in the hallway. A vague memory surfaced, and I could suddenly recall that the third floor had an alcove and an inset window hallway down the floor's hallway. Excited to look at the rain and possibly see another human being, I quickly walked over to the alcove, finding the large thin glass window rain washed down it, as with the front door's window, but I could open this one. I reached a hand out to slide it open but hesitated. I had the strangest feeling that if I opened that window, I would see something absolutely horrifying on the other side. Everything's been so odd lately, so I came up with a plan, and I came up here to get what I needed. I don't seriously think anything will come of it, but I'm bored. It's raining, and it's going to stir me crazy. I came back to get my webcam. The cord isn't long enough to reach the third floor by any means, so instead, I'm going to hide it between the two soda machines in the dark end of my basement hallway. Run the wire along the wall and under my door, and put black duct tape over the wire to blend it with the black plastic strip that runs along the base of the hallway's walls. I know this is silly, but I don't have anything better to do. Well, nothing happened. I propped open the hallway to stairwell door, steeled myself, then flung the heavy front door wide open and ran like hell down the stairs to my room and slammed the door. I watched the webcam on my computer intently, seeing the hallway outside my door and most of the stairwell. I'm watching it right now and I don't see anything interesting. I just wish the camera's position was different so that I could see out the front door. And hey, somebody's online. I got out an older, less functional webcam that I had in my closet to video chat with my friend online. I couldn't really explain to him why I wanted to video chat, but it felt good to see another person's face. He couldn't talk very long and we didn't talk about anything meaningful, but I feel much better. My strange fear has almost passed. I would feel completely better, but there was something odd about our conversation. I know that I've said that everything has seemed odd, but still, he was very vague in his responses. I can't recall one specific thing that he said. No particular name or place or event, but he did ask for my email address to keep in touch. Wait, I just got an email. I'm about to go out. I just got an email from Amy that asked me to meet her for dinner at the place we usually go to. I do love pizza, and I've just been eating random food from my poorly stocked fridge for days, so I can't wait. Again, I feel ridiculous about the odd couple of days I've been having, so I should destroy this journal when I get back. Oh, another email. Oh my god. I almost left the email and opened the door. I almost opened the door, but I read the email first. It was from a friend I hadn't heard from in a long time, and it was sent to a huge number of emails that must have been every person he had saved in his address list. It had no subject and it simply said, "Seen with your own eyes, don't trust them, they." What the hell is that supposed to mean? The words shock me and I keep going over and over them. Is it a desperate email sent just as something happened? The words are obviously cut off without finishing. On any other day I would have dismissed this as spam from a computer virus or something. But the words, "seen with your own eyes." I can't help but read over this journal and think back on the last few days and realize that I have not seen another person with my own eyes or talked to another person's face to face. The webcam conversation with my friend was so strange, so vague, so eerie. Now that I think about it, was it eerie, or is the fear clouding my memory? My mind toys with the progression of events I have written here, pointing out that I have not been presented with one single fact that I did not specifically give out unsuspectedly. The random wrong number that got my name and the subsequent strange return call from Amy, the friend that asked me for my email address. I messaged him first, then I saw him online, and then I got my first email a few minutes after the conversation. Oh my god, that phone call with Amy? I said over the phone, I said that I was within half an hour's walk of 7th Street. They know I'm near there. What if they're trying to find me? Where is everyone else? Why haven't I seen or heard anyone else in days? No, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I need to calm down. This madness needs to end. I don't know what to think. I ran about my apartment furiously, holding my cell phone up to every corner to see if it got a signal through the heavy walls. Finally, in the tiny bathroom near one ceiling corner, I got a single bar. Holding my phone there, I sent a text to every number in my list, not wanting to betray anything about my unfounded fears. I simply sent, "You seen anyone face to face lately?" At this point, I just wanted any reply back. I didn't care what the reply was or if I embarrassed myself. I tried to call someone a few times, but I couldn't get my head up high enough. And if I brought my cell phone down even an inch, it lost signal. Then I remembered that the computer and rushed over to it, instant messaging everyone online. Most were idle or away from their computer. Nobody responded. My messages grew more frantic and I started telling people where I was and to stop by in person for a host of barely passable reasons. I didn't care about anything by that point. I just needed to see another person. I also tore apart my apartment looking for something that I might have missed. Some way to contact another human being without opening the door. I know it's crazy, I know it's unfounded, but what if I just needed to be sure? I taped the phone to the ceiling in case. The phone rang. Exhausted from last night's rampage, I must have fallen asleep. I woke up to the phone ringing and ran into the bathroom. Stood on the toilet and flipped open the phone taped to the ceiling. It was Amy, and I feel so much better. She was really worried about me, and apparently she had been trying to contact me since the last time I talked to her. She's coming over now, and yes, she knows where I am without me telling her. I feel so embarrassed. I definitely throwing this journal away before anyone sees it. I don't even know why I'm writing it now. Maybe it's just because it's the only communication I've had all since God knows when. I look like hell too. I looked in the mirror before I came back in here. My eyes are sunken, my stubble is thicker, and I just look generally unhealthy. My apartment is trashed, but I'm not going to clean it up. I think I need someone else to see what I've been through. These past few days have not been normal. I am not one to imagine things. I know I have been a victim of extreme probability. I'm probably missed seeing another person a few dozen times. I just happened to go out when it was late at night or the middle of the day when everyone was gone. Everything's perfectly fine, I know this now. Plus, I found something in the closet last night that has helped me tremendously. A television. I set it up just before I wrote this and it's on the background. Television has always been an escape for me, and it reminds me that there's a world beyond these dingy brick walls. I'm glad Amy's the only one that responded to me after last night's frantic, pestering off everyone I could contact. She's been my best friend for years. She doesn't know it, but I count that day that I met her among one of the few moments of true happiness in my life. I remember that warm summer day fondly. It seems a different reality from this dark, rainy, lonely place. I feel like I spent days sitting in that playground, much too old to play, just talking with her and hanging around doing nothing at all. I still feel like I can go back to that moment sometimes, and it reminds me that this damn place is not all that there is. Finally, a knock on the door. I thought it was odd that I couldn't see her through the camera I had between the two soda machines. I figured that it was bad positioning, like when I couldn't see out the front door. I shouldn't have known. I should have known. After that knock, I yelled through the door jokingly that I had a camera between the soda machines because I was embarrassed myself that I had taken this paranoia so far. After I did that, I saw her image walk over to the camera and look down at it. She smiled and waved. "Hey," she said to the cameras brightly, giving it a re-look. "It's weird, I know," I said in the mic attached to my computer. "I've had a weird few days." "Must have," she replied. "Open the door, John." I hesitated. How could I be sure? "Hey, humor me a second here," I told her through the mic. "Tell me one thing about us. Just prove to me you're you." She gave the camera a weird look. Alright, she said, slowly, thinking. "We met randomly at a playground when we were both way too old to be there." I sighed deeply as reality returned and fear faded. God, I'd been so ridiculous. Of course it was Amy. That day wasn't anywhere in the world except in my memory. I never even mentioned it to anyone, not out of embarrassment, but out of a strange secret nostalgia and a longing for those days to return. There was some unknown force at work trying to trick me. As I feared, there was no way they could know about that day. Ha ha ha. Alright, I'll explain everything, I told her. Be right there. I ran to my small bathroom and fixed my hair as best as I could. I looked like hell, but she would understand. Snickering at my own unbelievable behavior and the mess I'd made of the place, I walked to the door. I put my hand on the doorknob and gave the mess one last look. So ridiculous, I thought. My eyes traced over the half-eaten food lying on the ground, the overflowing trash bin, and the bed I tipped over to the side, looking for God knows what. I almost turned to the door and opened it, but my eyes fell on one last thing. The old webcam, the one I used for that yearly vacant chat with my friend. Its silent black sphere lay haphazardly tossed to the side, its lens pointed at the table where this journal lay. An overwhelming terror look took me as I realized that if something could see through that camera, it would have seen what I just wrote about that day. I asked for her any one thing about us, and she closed the only thing in the world that I thought they or it did not know. But it did. It did know. It could have been watching me the whole time. I didn't open the door. I screamed. I screamed in uncontrollable terror. I stomped on the old webcam on the floor. The door shook and the doorknob tried to turn, but I didn't hear Amy's voice through the door. Was the basement door made to keep out drafts too thick? Or was Amy not outside? What could have been trying to get in if not her? What the hell is out there? I saw her on my computer through the camera outside. I heard her on the speakers though, the camera outside. But was it real? How can I know? She's gone now, I screamed and shouted for help. I piled up everything in my apartment against the front door. At least I think it's Friday. It's Friday, at least I think it. I broke everything electronic. I smashed my computer to pieces. Every single thing on there could have been accessed by network access, or worse, altered. I'm a programmer, I know. Every little piece of information I gave out since this started, my name, my email, my location, none of it came back from outside until I gave it out. I've been going over and over what I wrote. I've been pacing back and forth, alternating between stark terror and overpowering disbelief. Sometimes I'm absolutely certain some phantom entity is dead set on a simple goal of getting me to go outside. Back to the beginning, with the phone call from Amy. She was effectively asking me to open the door and go outside. I keep running through it in my head. One point of view says I've acted like a madman, and all of this is the extreme convergence of probability. Never going outside at the right times by pure luck, never seeing another person by pure chance, getting a random nonsense email from some computer virus at just the right time. The other point of view says that the extreme convergence of probability is the reason that whatever's out there hasn't gotten me already. I keep thinking, I never opened the window on the 3rd floor. I never opened the front door until that incredibly stupid stunt with the hidden camera, after which I ran straight to my room and slammed the door. I haven't opened my own solid door since I flung open the front door of the building. Whatever's out there, if anything's out there, never made an appearance in the building before I opened the front door. Maybe the reason it wasn't in the building already was that it was elsewhere, getting everyone else. And then it waited until I betrayed my existence by trying to call Amy, a call which didn't work until it called me and asked me my name. Terror literally overwhelms me every time I try to fit the pieces of this nightmare together. That email shortcut of it was from someone trying to get word out, some friendly voice desperately trying to warn me before it came. Seen with my own eyes, don't trust them. Exactly what I've been so suspicious of. It could have masterful control of all things electronic, practicing its insidious deception to trick me into coming outside. Why can't it get in? It knocked on the door. It must have some solid presence. The door. The image of those doors in the upper hallway as guardian monoliths flashes back in my mind every time I trace this path of thoughts. If there is some phantom entity trying to get me to go outside, maybe it can't get through doors. I keep thinking back over all the books I've read or movies I've seen, trying to generate some explanation for this. Doors have always been such intense foci of human imagination, always seen as wards or portals of special importance. Or perhaps the door is just too thick. I know that I couldn't bash through any of the doors in this building, let alone the heavy basement ones. Aside from that, the real question is, why does it even want me? If it's waiting to kill me, it could do it any number of ways, including just waiting until I starve to death. What if it doesn't want to kill me? What if it has some far more horrific fate in store for me? God, what can I do to escape this nightmare? A knock on the door. I told the people on the other side of the door I needed a minute to think and I'll come out. I'm ready, just writing this down so I can figure out what to do. At least this time I heard their voices. My paranoia. And yes, I recognize I'm being paranoid. Has me thinking of all sorts of ways that their voice could be faked electronically. There could be nothing but speakers outside simulating human voices. Did it really take them 3 days to come talk to me? Amy is supposedly out there, along with 2 policemen and a psychiatrist. Maybe it took them 3 days to think of what to say to me? The psychiatrist's claim could be pretty convincing. If I decided to think that this has all been a misunderstanding and not some entity trying to trick me into opening the door. The psychiatrist had an older voice, authoritarian but still caring. I liked it. I'm desperate just to see someone with my own eyes. He said I have something called cyberpsychosis. I'm just one of a nationwide epidemic of thousands of people having breakdowns triggered by a suggestive email that got through somehow. I swear he said got through somehow. I think he means spread throughout the country inexplicably, but I'm incredibly suspicious that the entity slipped up and revealed something. He said I am part of a wave of emergent behavior, that a lot of other people are having the same problem with the same fears, even though we've never communicated. That neatly explains the strange email about eyes that I got. I didn't get the original triggering email, I got a descendant of it. My friend could have broken down too, and I tried to warn everyone he knew against his paranoid fears. That's how the problem spreads, the psychiatrist claims. I could have spread it too with my text and instant messages online to everybody I know. One of those people might be melting down right now after being triggered by something I sent them. Something they might interpret any way that they want. Something like a text saying seen anyone's face to face lately. The psychiatrist told me that he didn't want to lose another one. The people like me are intelligent, and that's our downfall. We draw connections so well that we draw them even when they shouldn't be there. He said it's easy to get caught up in the paranoia in our fast-paced world, a constantly changing place where more and more of our interactions is simulated. I had to give him one thing. It's a great explanation. It neatly explains everything. It perfectly explains everything. In fact, I have every reason to shake off this nightmarish fear that something or consciousness or being out there wants me to open the door so it can capture me for some horrible fate worse than death. It would be foolish, after hearing that explanation, to stay in there until I starve to death, just to spite the entity that might have got to everyone else. It would be foolish to think that, after hearing that explanation, I might be one of the last people left alive on an empty world, hiding in my secure basement room, spitting some unthinkable, deceptive entity just by refusing to be captured. It's a perfect explanation for every single strange thing I've seen or heard, and I've every reason in the world to let all of my fears go and open that door. That's exactly why I'm not going to. How can I be sure? How can I know what's real and what's deception? All of these damn things with their wires and their signals that originate from some unseen origin. They're not real. I can't be sure. Signals through a camera, faked video, deceptive phone calls, emails, even the television lying broken on the floor. How can I possibly know it's real? It's just signals, waves, light. The door is bashing on the door. It's trying to get in. What insane mechanical contrivance could it be using to simulate that sound of men attacking the heavy wood so well? At least I finally see it with my own eyes. There's nothing left in here for it to deceive me with. I've ripped apart everything else. It can't deceive my eyes, can it? Seen with your own eyes, don't trust them. Wait, was that desperate message telling me to trust my eyes? Or warning me about my eyes too? Oh my god, what's the difference between a camera and my eyes? They both turn light into electrical signals. They're the same. I can't be deceived. I have to be sure. Date unknown. I calmly asked for paper and a pen day in and day out until it finally gave them to me. Not that it matters what I'm going to do. Poke my eyes out. The bandages feel like part of me now. The pain is gone. I figure this will be one of my last chances to write legibly, as without my sight to correct mistakes, my hands will slowly forget the motions involved. This is a sort of self-indulgence. This writing, it's a relic of another time, because I'm certain everyone left in the world is dead, or something far worse. I sit against the padded wall day in and day out. The entity brings me food and water. It masks itself as a kind of nurse, as an unsympathetic doctor. I think it knows that my hearing has sharpened considerably now that I live in darkness. It fakes conversations in the hallways, on the off chance that I might overhear one of the nurses talk about having a baby soon. One of the doctors lost his wife in a car accident. None of it matters. None of it is real. None of it gets to me. Not like she does. That's the worst part. The part I almost can't handle. The thing comes to me, masquerading as Amy. Its recreation is perfect. It sounds exactly like Amy, feels exactly like her. It even produces a reasonable facsimile of tears that it makes me feel on its lifelike cheeks. When it first dragged me here, it told me all the things I wanted to hear. It told me that she loved me, that she had always loved me, that it didn't understand why I did this, that we could still have a life together. If only I would stop insisting that I was being deceived. It wanted me to believe. No, it needed me to believe that she was real. I almost fell for it. I really did. I doubted myself for the longest time. In the end, though, it was all too perfect, too flawless, and too real. The false Amy used to come here every day and then every week and finally stopped coming altogether. But I don't think that entity will give up. I think the waiting game is just another one of its gambits. I will resist it for the rest of my life. If I have to, I don't know what happened to the rest of the world, but I do know that this thing needs me to fail for its deception. If it needs that, then maybe, just maybe, I'm a thorn in its agenda. Maybe Amy is still alive out there somewhere, kept alive only by my will to resist the deceiver. I hold on to that hope, rocking back and forth in my cell to pass the time. I will never give in. I will never break. I am a hero. The doctor read the paper the patient had scribbled on. It was barely readable, written in the shaky script of one who could not be seen. He wanted to smile at the man's steadfast resolve, a reminder of the human will to survive, but he knew that the patient was completely delusional. After all, a sane man would have fallen for the deception long ago. The doctor wanted to smile. He wanted to whisper words of encouragement to the delusional man. He wanted to scream, but the nerve filaments wrapped around his head and his eyes made him do otherwise. His body walked into the cell like a puppet and told the patient once more that he was wrong and that there was nobody trying to deceive him. And that's the end of the story. So apparently it was given a 9.1 out of 10. I'm not gonna give it a ranking because now that I think about it, I should leave it for the actual review video. But I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty good story. My problem is that it is a bit long, and as you can probably hear, I did mess up my wordings a couple of times because I'm just doing it like live, like I'm like reading it while I'm recording this video. So bear in mind, I'm trying to get this video out like as fast as I possibly can. But yeah, this story was very well made. It's definitely in the upper tiers of stories that don't how can I say this in terms that is easy to understand. It doesn't insult your intelligence, I guess, because there are other stories that like you had to disbelieve just so much that it kind of makes it unbelievable. But this one I can definitely see happening to people. Now of course I don't see the whole like getting attacked by monsters thing, and then I think the truth is that either there are actual monsters but they're disguising as humans, or that the humans, it's like all in John's head. Like, the main character John, it's all in his head and he's just imagining everything. I think that's the actual story of psychosis, is that you're suffering from so much of being on your room all the time, just doing your work, doing all this, that you need human interaction, and that it just boiled and hit a breaking point that he no longer believes that human interaction could help him, that he just believes that everybody's out to get him, and that even his best friend Amy is just out there like trying to, I guess, trick him, and he will not be deceived by the deceiver. The main villain and the deceiver is trying to kill him, whether it's a monster or a bad man. I guess it's up to your interpretation. But yeah, again, a pretty good story, a little too long for my case. Hopefully this is the longest one, because I feel like all the other ones are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes or shorter. Really good creepypasta. Really, yeah, I could see definitely why it's in the higher tiers of people's recommending. When they tell you to read a creepypasta, they usually tell you this one, and I could see why it's ranked so highly. Okay, so next creepypasta is called Dead Bart. So it got a 7.72 out of 10. So let's check it out. Let's check out Dead Bart. All right, scary music, go. Do you know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refused to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening. During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mention it to Matt. The episode's production number was 7G44. The title was called Dead Bart. In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who was on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him, probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode though, all the color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him about him, if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website address on it. I would rather not say what it was for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser and I came to a site that was completely black, except for a line of yellow text and a download link. I clicked on it and the file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. System restore didn't work, the entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer, and as I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off like any other episode, but it had very poor quality animation. If you've ever seen the original animation for Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar, but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier, Marge seemed depressed, Lisa seemed anxious, and Bart seemed to have a genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around as you'd expect. However, as the plane was about 50 feet off the ground, Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of the Simpsons world represented life, and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of it not having it to move, and made an almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with the shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at their table, crying. The crying went on and on. It got more pained and sounded more realistic. Better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. This crying went on for all of Act 2. And Act 3 opened up with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin and still sitting at the table. There was no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked to the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was just lying in front of this tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1. The family started crying again. Eventually, they stopped and just stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face. According to summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but it isn't audible in this version that I saw. You can't tell what Homer was saying. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them. Some that no one had heard of even in 1989. Some that haven't been on the show yet. All of them had death dates on them. For guess who did die? like Michael Jackson and George Harrison, the dates were when they would die. You can try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there's something odd about most of the ones who haven't died yet. All of their deaths are listed as the same date. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Dead Bart, and yeah, what an interesting story that was. Dead Bart is one of those lost media creepypastas that a lot of people have heard of. I, of course, have heard of some Squidward suicide and Suicide Mouse.avi, stuff like that. Dead Bart was one of the first. It's probably not the first, but one of the first and one of the most popular that came out with all of this. This one cartoon you saw, well, there's actually a untold truth about it, and it's much darker than you think. And I remember as a kid, I would be terrified, thinking of, what if there's a Ben 10, evil version, or a more disgusting, disturbing version of, I don't know, Total Drama or Adventure Time, shit like that. And yeah, Dead Bart, not gonna lie, was pretty ass creepypasta. The story that, I guess there's two things that I don't really like about it. One is the whole fact of Matt Groening being disturbed when you would just say Dead Bart, you would think it was some sort of him saying Voldemort or something, oh, you shouldn't never say that. But he was trembling in fear when talking about Dead Bart, which I bet if you would tell him Dead Bart, you'd be like, oh, yeah, Bart probably did die in some of the episodes that I made. And the second thing is, all of the things that were mentioned, Bart dying, Homer being angry, Marge being depressed, seems like a regular episode of The Simpsons. I don't know why they're saying that this is some irregularity that we've seen. We've seen Bart dying a couple of times, Homer choking him to death. We've probably seen something that horrible, and with them having the photorealistic Bart is something that's just become a cliche. So at this point, it's not really that scary or anything like that. But the one thing that I surprisingly did like was the whole predictions thing, but the way they acted on it was horrible. They just said, oh, by the way, there are some graves that have the deaths of Simpsons guest stars, and some of them are from when they actually died, and the ones who didn't die, it's their supposed death. In my opinion, I think it would have been way better for them to use some sort of different Simpsons prediction thing, because I know they were using the whole Simpsons can predict the future thing that was probably being popular around that time. The whole did the Simpsons predict 9/11? Did they predict this? I think it would have been better if they would have done it in a more secretive type of way, but at the same time, I don't know how I would have done it. I think it would be more just troublesome to actually insert that in, but it is an actual idea, and I think it probably would have made the story more creepier if they would have done that right than the actual story of Bart being dead and the whole family being anorexic or something, or not eating because of Bart's death, and then the whole town suddenly is mourning his death, and everybody left the town and nobody knows where the baby Maggie is or the dogs or anything. It's so, I don't know, it's so stupid. But yeah, it was given a 7 out of 10. I would give it honestly a 4.5 out of 10. It's kind of boring. No, I would give it 5 out of 10 because it's boring, but it's not something where I'm gonna be mad at, or something where I'm well, that was a waste of time. It was kind of nostalgic, and I did like them trying to use the Simpsons prediction in their story, but it was just used horribly. And the rest of the story, the actual scary part, was ass, so not really important. Anyways, we move along with the next story I'm gonna read, and it is called Polybius. Polybius has a 5.24 out of 10. 5.24 out of 10. That is crazy. Apparently nobody really likes this story. Kind of crazy, not gonna lie, but hey, we're gonna give it a shot. In Portland, Oregon in 1981, an unheard of new arcade game appeared in several suburbs, something of a rarity at the time. This game was called Polybius. The game proved to be incredibly popular to the point of addiction, and queues formed around the machines, quickly followed by clusters of visits from men in black. Rather than the usual marketing, data collected by company visitors to arcade machines, they collected something unknown data, allegedly testing responses to the psychoactive machines. The players themselves suffered from a series of unpleasant side effects: amnesia, insomnia, nightmares, night terrors, and suicide, appearing as having been caused by the game in various versions of the legend. Some players stopped playing the video game, while it is reported that one became an anti-gaming activist because of it. Now, there's multiple stories regarding Polybius, but this is the most popular one. Polybius is an urban legend about a rare arcade game released in 1981. The game was created by a mysterious company called Sinneslöschen, German for sense deletion, and was a puzzle shoot 'em up somewhat like Tempest. It was only released in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. It was supposedly very popular, with people forming long lines to play it. However, players reported strange things about the game, such as hearing a woman crying and seeing grotesque faces out of the corner of their eyes. Players would also have nightmares, experience nausea, headaches, blackouts, or even develop amnesia, with some even committing suicide. Others stopped playing video games altogether, and at least one became an anti-video game activist. According to one owner of an arcade, men wearing black suits would often come to collect records from the game. They did not take any money, simply data on gameplay. Because of this, the leading theory is that it was some sort of government experiment using subliminal messages. The game remains in obscurity, as around 1 month after its release, all of the cabinets suddenly disappeared. One cabinet reappeared in an arcade in 1998, but quickly disappeared again. While some have tried to recreate the game, no one has ever found the original ROM. And so that was Polybius. This one was much shorter than the other ones. It was like 2 minutes, but yeah, I mean, apparently Polybius is a bad creepypasta. I feel like it's a good urban myth, urban legend of this supposed game that gives people like seizures, amnesia, causing people to kill themselves, scary stuff, and it being caused by, I guess, the government. It's pretty interesting. I think this was inspired by something like MK Ultra or something, where the government actually did do experiments to people in order to test stuff, like weapons and chemicals, all that type of stuff. So I can see the vision they were going for, but yeah, it just really fell flat. I would give it a 5 out of 10. I would agree with the 5 out of 10. It really surprised me. As a story, it's kind of boring, but as an urban legend, it's pretty interesting. And speaking of urban legends with video games, here we have the Lavender Town Syndrome, 7.82 out of 10. The Lavender Town Syndrome, also known as Lavender Town Tone or Lavender Town Suicides, was a peak in suicides and illness of children between the ages of 7 and 12, shortly after the release of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, back in February 27th, 1996. Rumors said that these suicides and illnesses only occurred after the children playing the game reached Lavender Town, whose theme music had extremely high frequencies that studies showed that only children and young teens can hear, since their ears are more sensitive. Due to the Lavender Town tone, at least 200 children supposedly committed suicide, and many more developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not act irrationally complained of severe headaches after listening to a Lavender Town theme. Although Lavender Town now sounds differently depending on the game, the mass hysteria was caused by the first Pokemon game released. After the Lavender Town tone incident, the programmers had fixed Lavender Town's theme music to be at a lower frequency, and since then, children were no longer affected by it. One video appeared in 2010 using special software to analyze the audio of Lavender Town's music. When played, the software created images of the unknown near the end of the audio. This raised a controversy since the unknown didn't appear until the Generation 2 games, Silver, Gold, and Crystal. The unknown translates to leave now. There's also said to be a beta version of Lavender Town, and it is said that the beta version of Pocket Monsters was released to some kids to test the game. This is the video of the beta version of Lavender Town. So yeah, that was the Lavender Town syndrome incident. I remember back when I was like 10 or 11, I would think, holy shit, I did not know that was real. And before hearing this pasta, I have heard of the legendary episode of Pokemon where it gave a lot of kids seizures. So this actually enforced the creepypasta being real, because I was like, well, if kids are getting sick due to watching a TV show, why wouldn't it when they would hear like some noises? And you know, some noises can be like pretty horrible to hear, so it isn't a surprise why some kids would, like, I don't know, commit suicide, I guess, you know. But yeah, this story, it was okay. You know, the whole high frequency thing probably could have been done much better. I did like that they were attempting to make it spookier, and with it being realistic, I will give this a 6 out of 10, honestly. But I don't know, there's just something about it that it kind of is boring, and it feels more like an urban legend similar to Polybius, and it's not as interesting. But I do kind of like the urban legend aspect of it, or it being like a potential YouTube video of, remember when this disturbing thing happened back in the 90s type, you know, those types of videos. And I think the Lavender Town syndrome could be, you know, one of those topics to be discussed. And the music itself is pretty creepy, but now it's just a bop, honestly. And now it is time to finally talk about my final creepypasta story that I'm gonna read, and this one is probably the most infamous one. You know, I discussed about the picture, the image, the infamous Jeff the Killer, you know, where did this image come from, all that stuff. And it is still ongoing till this day. You know, Mudahar has, you know, put on a bail freaking bounty, One Piece style, on trying to find out where this image came from. We're all trying to find the origin of the Jeff the Killer face and what happens to it. I try to talk about it for a little bit in one of my YouTube videos, but I am going to talk about Jeff the Killer, the story, the creepypasta story, and may God help me. Oh, and this story has a 8.69 out of 10, so nice. And for the final time, cue the horror music. Excerpt from a local newspaper. Anonymous unknown killer is still at large. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There in the little ray of light illuminating from between my curtains were a pair of 2 eyes. These weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me. That was when I saw his mouth. A long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said it in a way only a mad man could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped up on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around, trying to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if not for one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing, I will never forget that face, those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head. Police are still on the look for this man. If you see anyone that fits this description in this story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work and they thought it would be the best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Lou couldn't complain though. A new, better house. What was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by. "Hello," she said. "I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and to introduce my son." She turns around and calls her son over. "Billy, these are our new neighbors." Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. "Well," said Jeff's mom, "I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter, and my two sons, Jeff and Lou." They each introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday party. Jeff and his brother were about to object when their mother said that they would love to go. When Jeff and his family are done packing, Jeff went up to his mom. "Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid." "Jeff," said his mom, "we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now we're going to that party and that's final." Jeff started to talk but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and plopped down on his bed. He sat there looking at his ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as just some random feeling. He heard his mother call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. The next day, Jeff walked downstairs to get his breakfast and not ready for school. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once got that feeling. This time it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain, but he once again dismissed it. As he and Lou finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. "Hey, what the hell?" The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hand. The kid seems to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. He wears an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. Well. Looks like we got some new meat. Suddenly, two other kids appeared. One was super skinny and the other one was huge. "Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith." Jeff and Lou looked over there to the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. "And he's Troy." They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. "And I," said the first kid, "I'm Randy." Now, for all the kids in this neighborhood, there is a small price for a bus fare. If you catch my drift. Lou stood up, ready to punch the lights out of this kid's eyes, when one of the friends pulled a knife on him. "I had hoped you would be more cooperative." The kid walked up to Lou and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again. Now, it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Lou gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. "Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else." Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. "Oh, and what will you do?" Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach and Troy went down. As he felt, he puked all over. Lou could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff. "Jeff, how'd you?" was all he said. They saw the bus coming and they knew that they would be blamed for the whole thing, so they started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Lou made it to school, they didn't dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Lou just thought of that as his brother beating up a few kids, but Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was. The urge to just hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day of school. even as he walked home due to the whole thing near the bus stop and how now he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore. He felt happy. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was a wonderful day." Next morning, he heard a knock at the front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door, his mother looking back at him with an angry look. "Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids, that it wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed. Stabbed, son." Jeff's gaze fell into the floor, showing his mother that it was true. "Mom, they were the ones who pulled the knives on me and Lou." "Son," said one of the cops, "we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach. And we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now what does that tell us?" Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Lou had been attacked first, but then there was no proof it was not them who were attacked. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing, because truth be told they were, so Jeff couldn't defend himself or Lou. "Son, call down your brother. Jeff couldn't do it since it was he who beat up the kids." "Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up the kids. Lou tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me." The cop looked at his partner and they both nod. "Well, kid, looks like you got a year in juvie." "Wait," says Lou. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked them on Lou. "It was me. I beat up those little punks. Have the marks to prove it." He lifted up his sleeve to reveal cuts and bruises, as if he was the one in a struggle. "Son, just put down the knife," said the officer. Lou held up the knife and dropped it to the ground. He put his hands up and walked over to the cops. "No, Lou, it was me. I did it." Jeff had his tears running down in his face. "Poor bro. Trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take me away." The police led Lou to the patrol car. "Lou, tell them it was me. Tell them. I was the one who beat up those kids." Jeff's mother put her hands on his shoulders. "Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it's Lou. You can stop." Jeff watched helplessly as the car speeds off with Lou inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled into the driveway. Seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong. Son, what is it?" Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break down the bad news to him as Jeff wept to the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house, seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Lou when it was at his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by with no word from Lou at JDC, no friends to hang out with, nothing but sadness and guilt. This is until Saturday, when Jeff is woken up by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face. "Jeff, it's the day," she said as she opened up the curtains and let light flood into his room. What's today?" asked Jeff as he stares away. "Why, it's Billy's party." He was now fully awake. "Mom, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to go to some kid's party after..." There was a long pause. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be the thing that brightens up the past days. Now get dressed." Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get ready herself. He fought himself to get up. He picked up a random shirt and a pair of jeans and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up. His mother in a dress and his father in a suit. He thought, why would they ever wear such fancy clothes to a kid's party? "Son, is that all you're going to wear?" said Jeff's mom. "Better than wearing too much," he said. His mother pushed down the feeling to yell at him and hit him with a smile. "Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how you go if you want to make an impression," said his father. Jeff grunted and went back up to his room. "I don't have any fancy clothes," he yelled downstairs. "Just pick out something," called his mother. He looked around his closet for what he called fancy. He found a pair of black dress pants he had for special occasions and an undershirt. He couldn't find a shirt to go with it though. He looked around and found only a striped and patterned shirt, none of which go with the dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie and put it on. "You're wearing that?" they both said. His mother looked at her watch and, "Oh, no time to change. Let's just go," she said as she headed Jeff and his father out the door. They crossed the street over to Barbara and Billy's house. They both knocked on the door, and at it appeared that Barbara, just like his parents, way overdressed. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were adults, no kids. "The kids are out in the yard. Jeff, how about you go and meet some of them?" said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. He might as well be standing in a Toys R Us. Suddenly, a kid came up with him and handed him a toy gun and hat. "Hey, wanna play?" he said. "No, kid, I'm way too old for this stuff." The kid looked at him with those puppy dog faces. "Please," said the kid. "Fine," said Jeff. Jeff put on the hat and started to pretend shoot at the kids. At first he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might not have been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off Lou. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise, a weird rolling noise. Then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboards. Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with burning hatred. "Hello, Jeff, is it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business." Jeff saw his bruised nose. "I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you and you get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes. "Oh no, I don't go for even, I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that one day, but not today." As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off of him and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith pulled guns out of their pockets. "No one interrupts or guts will fly," they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed him into the shoulders. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabs his foot and twists it, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. "Need some help?" He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he is kicked down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood. "Come on, Jeff. Fight me." He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. "Fight!" He throws Jeff back into the living room. "Come on, Jeff, look at me." Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood. "I was the one who got your brother sent to GDC. And now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year? You should be ashamed." Jeff starts to get up. "Oh, finally. You stand and fight." Jeff is now at his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets to the strange feeling, that one in which he hasn't felt for a while. "Finally, he's up," says Randy as he runs at Jeff. Then, when it happens, something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed, all rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him to the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight into the heart. Then he punches, causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff, Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith follow up behind. As they let out their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it off the wall. Troy and Keith race in, knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He is more agile than Troy though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell down on top of him from the top shelf. It burnt down off them, and they both started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung it straight to Keith's head. As he lays there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. "What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught on fire. He tried to roll out on fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started screaming as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire, drop to the ground nearly dead. The last thing that Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flame. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized that there was some tube in his arm. And when he tried to get up, it fell out, and a nurse rushed in. "I don't think you can get out of bed just yet," she said as she put it back on him and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there with no vision, no idea what was surrounding him. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. Jeff couldn't answer though his face was covered and he was unable to speak. "Oh honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed of trying to attack you, they decided to let Lou go." This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. "He'll be out tomorrow, and then you two will be able to live together again." Jeff's mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. Then came the day where his bandages were to be removed. His family members were all there to see it, what he would look like. As the doctors unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of their seats. They waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was almost removed. "Let's hope for the best," said the doctor. He quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of his face. Lou and Jeff's dad stare awestruck at his face. What happened to my face?" said Jeff. He rushed out of his bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked into the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face, it's horrible. His lips were burnt to a deep shade of red. His face was turned into a pure white color, and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand to his face. It had a sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, then back at the mirror. "Jeff," said Lou, "it's not that bad." "Not that bad?" said Jeff. "It's perfect." His family was equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching. "Jeff, are you okay?" "Okay? I've never felt more happy." "Look at me. This face goes perfectly with me." He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity snapped. Now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, his parents didn't know. "Doctor," said Jeff's mom, "is my son alright? You know, in the head?" "Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here and we'll give him a psychological test." "Oh, thank you, doctors." Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. "Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go." Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile. "Okay, mommy." His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to his clothes. "This is what came in," said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the black dress, pants, and white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put his clothes on. Then they left, not knowing that this was their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. "Jeff, what are you doing?" asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mother. "I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can finally smile forever." Jeff's mother noticed his eyes ringed in black. "Jeff, your eyes." His eyes were seemingly never closing. "I couldn't see my face. I got tired and my eyes started to close. I burnt out the eyelids so I could forever see myself. My new face." Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. "What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful?" "Yes, son," she said. "Yes, you are. Let me go get Daddy so he could see your face." She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. "Honey, Get the gun, She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway holding a knife. Mommy, you lied. That's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with the knife, gutting both of them. His brother Lou woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he got the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Lou. Lou thrashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip. Shh, Jeff said. Just go to sleep. This was a horrible story. Okay, I tried my best to not laugh at certain parts, but I'm sorry. As soon as they started doing some freaking Mortal Kombat ass shit with Jeff and Randy and Troy and Keith and all that stuff, I just couldn't keep it. What was happening? So the story starts off with Jeff being this innocent kid, not knowing what happened. Then he suddenly was able to become Hulk Hogan and beat 3 guys, you know, one big guy, one tall skinny guy, another Randy with a freaking knife, and he beat all 3 of them. And then suddenly he got this weird feeling, and then when they were going for the run back, yeah, Jeff was losing, he got shit stomped, but then suddenly he got the power of anime and God on his side and then started beating all of them. He hit like fatalities to all those bullies. And then he suddenly went insane. Like, this doesn't make any sense. This story doesn't make any sense. What? So, I'm going insane like Jeff here. I'm trying to rationalize how this feeling, because Jeff was saying that he had this weird feeling, and then I thought he just probably, you know, he had high blood pressure or something, or he was like anxious because of what happened. But this feeling was that he was going to be a psychopath, and his conflict with Randy and the other bullies is what elevated him to becoming a psychopath. Like, was that like the straw that broke the camel's back? You know, like Obito when he saw Rin die. Was that like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back? Is that what happened? You know, he went over the limit? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This story it just doesn't make any sense. And for it to have a, let me see, a 8.69, it doesn't deserve it in my opinion. That's something like a pretty good story. But Jeff, oh my god, this story is so idiotic in so many ways. From the name, first of all, what the hell, Lou, is he like, are they Asian or something? Like, is that probably why? Or is this like Khan from King of the Hill trying to kiss up to the neighbors or something? To the bullies being these like hardcore bullies. Like, yeah, there are kids that are bullies that will like physically do stuff, but suddenly these guys are like gang leaders or something. Like, they're fighting the mafia or like the Yakuza or the cartel. Like, what the heck? And then Jeff being this like overpowered badass, suddenly he becomes fucking, I don't know, Kirito from fucking Sword Art Online. Like, he just suddenly becomes the best fighter of all time. Like, he is OP, no one can touch him. And like, he gets burnt. I think the whole thing of him getting scarred was just an excuse to, like, you know, have the image, the infamous image, to correlate with the story, which in my opinion is horrible. I think it would have been better if they just did like, if he was just a random serial killer and it was like an amalgamation of like body parts to become like, you know, perfect, like, I don't know, like Texas Chainsaw or something. But I don't know, this story doesn't make any sense. From the beginning of the bullies to the freaking fighting, suddenly we entered a fucking quick time event or something, and then Jeff's insanity being like, it was mentioned with the whole, oh, he got a weird feeling type of thing, but it just wasn't horrible. And then suddenly he became insane, and then I had to say mommy, which is horrible now because now that can get clipped. But yeah, this story was ass. It doesn't deserve an 8.69. It doesn't even deserve the 69. I'm gonna give this story 3 out of 10 for right now. I might revisit this story, reread it, but for, you know, for the big review. But I don't like this story. This story was horrible. It is stupid, horrible, idiotic. There were some mistakes that I had to read because that's what the story was. And I'm not saying that these stories had horrible grammar. Sometimes I just couldn't speak right, but this one had a lot of, just inaccuracies. And I'm not here stating that I'm a freaking English professor giving you an F on your test, but goddamn, dude, like, I know Grammarly didn't exist, but I don't know, invest in that or something. But yeah, I think that's all I could read anymore. I read Psychosis. That one was pretty good. Polybius was fun. Good. Urban Legend, same goes for the Lavender Town Syndrome. Dead Bart, little kind of stupid, honestly, but I can see why people would get like scared or disturbed when they read it. And Jeff the Killer, honestly, that freaking image is the only reason why Jeff the Killer still exists in 2023. If not for that fucking image and like its scarcity of knowledge about it, no one would be talking about this, because look at this story. It is horrendously popular, and it boggles my mind why people still like it and why it's an 8.69 when it should be a freaking 3.69. You know what? It doesn't even deserve the 69. It should be a 68. It should be barely there, because it doesn't even deserve to have that nice category. This was a horrible creepypasta. I was laughing my ass off, and with the thing of bleach, oh my god. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully this was something. I know I need to upload more videos. I have some in the back burner that I just need to edit, but I just need time to, because I'm still in college, and I feel like that's like my excuse. Like, I'm in college, I'm gonna have that excuse when I'm 33 or something. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and happy Halloween if it's Halloween. Happy day whenever that day is, and be careful with the thing of bleach. Bye.